Okay, and I also turned on the AI companion.
Thank you, reader.
Oops. Now I'm not seeing. Now I'm not seeing the gallery. Hold on, view. Just give me 1 second here. View, there we go. Okay. All right, so the first person is GH. All right, and go ahead. GH, yeah, unmute yourself and go ahead. Hello, we can't hear you if you're talking. Not sure what to do. GH, we can't hear you. It's not just me, right?
No, it's not.
No.
Okay.
Is it possible to move on in the queue and maybe
Yeah.
return?
Yeah.
Second.
GH, we're just gonna call on the next person, and hopefully we can figure out what's happening, and we'll call you again. Okay. All right. Let me just restart the timer here. And go ahead. Reza or Riza?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So good evening in the US and good morning here in Banda Aceh. So again, my name is Reza and I'm from Aceh, a region in Indonesia. And I'm speaking today not only as an Acehese person, but as someone who did value the history that connects our part of the world with yours. Because we in Aceh have been following, the recent development about the plan to change the city seals in Salem. Why we in Aceh would like to also join this conversation, because in our knowledge in Aceh, Salem and Aceh have a long and unique relationship, and we've been talking about this. It's part of our daily conversation that we in Aceh and there is a city called Salem in the United States that we had traded and built connection across the ocean since the uh, 1600s. And for us, the figure in Salem City Seal tells part of that story, and it's a rare reminder that each shared part is still remembered, I think. And I first visited the city of Salem in 2014, and I've had the chance to return a few times since. And during my visits, I learned even more about the long connection between Salem and Aceh. And I also read and heard the story about how after the tsunami in 2004, that people from Salem sent support and donations to help the Acehese people. And that touched me deeply and makes me really wanted to always connect with the city. And as I've read from the news, and then I discuss also with, I have a long academic connection with Professor Michael Feener, and I got recent updates of what's going on in the city of Salem, and I think it's also make us in Aceh aware of this situation, and we just wanted to to take any other chance to tell you that we don't see the image as offensive in Aceh. On the contrary, it's a meaningful symbol of proud and peaceful connection between the two cultures. And we understand, and me, especially I really understand that some people might feel uncomfortable, and I truly respect that. But we hope that the council will also listen to the voices from Aceh. Until now, we have not been included in this conversation, and just wanted to say once again, this seal is also part of our history too, and please don't erase it if you can, and without fully understanding that
Okay.
what it means to others across the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Risa. We have to move on to the next person. Thank you for sharing your input. Okay. All right. The next person is Donna Seeger. All right, Donna, go ahead. And I'll just restart the timer.
Sorry, I just got my hello. Donna Seeger here, 7 Chestnut Street in Salem. Thank you so much for having this forum. I have 3 major points, and I'm intimidated by the time, so I'm going to just jump in. I'm really sorry that people in Salem are hurt by this image because I agree with from my own perspective, which is really more professional than personal, I think. I'm a historian. I'm an American historian. Excuse me, a European historian. I teach at Salem State. So I have no professional expertise on this matter like Dr. Feener here, but we have a commitment at Salem State to world history for undergraduate core curriculum. So I've been teaching world history for 23 years. And this image always struck me as a professor and as a citizen of Salem as such a great image of globalism, especially an image that comes from the 19th century, which is probably the most imperialistic and nationalistic of centuries. And for one society to visualize and credit its prosperity to trade with another society on the other side of the ocean, on the other side of the world, is pretty incredible as a global statement in the early part of the 19th century. So I think it's a unique symbol. I hope that this committee explores its historical context a little bit more, a lot more, in forthcoming discussions. There has not been much historical context discussed of the history of the image. I have been listening to your sessions, and I haven't heard much context. I've heard a lot of personal opinion, and I would like to see more historical context. And the last thing I just wanted to say is that this symbol, and that's why I'm glad you're doing this tonight. And I'm sure you've heard from a lot of people, this symbol means a lot to people in Salem. I also have a blog called Streets of Salem, and people have sent me all sorts of reminiscences and occasions where members of their family have received this symbol. They really like this symbol. It means something to them. So the notion that it would be dismissed, not cavalierly, I understand you're in a long process here, and I appreciate that. But I hope that you have an opportunity tonight and in other opportunities to understand how much it means to the people of Salem. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, so moving on to the next person. It just says iPad, so go ahead and I will reset the timer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Rick Gaspard, and I'm a Salem resident in Ward 2. Regarding the figure depicted on the Salem City Seal, I see it as a positive symbol of Salem's maritime and merchant history with and respect for the merchants and people of the Spice Islands, now Indonesia, during the Great Age of Sail. I do not see it as a symbol of racism, oppression, or anything negative. I would encourage everyone considering this question to read Professor Michael Feener's email from last September. He includes responses from current inhabitants of Sumatra, which show that they also consider the seal as a positive symbol of historical cooperative trade and mutual respect. And just an editorial comment, I wrote that paragraph before I realized that Professor Feener was going to be on the call today, and that we would also have participants live speaking from Indonesia. Rather than change the seal, I would encourage us to use it as an opportunity to strengthen our ties with Sumatra. One example of what is possible is the effort that the citizens of Salem made to collect aid to support the victims of the 2004 tsunami in the Aceh area. Another example could be a student exchange program between universities or schools. Another could be opportunities for museum exhibits. In summary, this is an opportunity to uplift our understanding of our two regions and to enhance that relationship going forward. I am not in favor of changing the seal. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I may have missed your name, but would you mind sharing your name for the record?
My name is Rick Gaspard. That's Gaspard.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on to the next person. Iska. Go ahead, Iska, and I'm gonna reset the timer.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much for this kind of opportunity. Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everybody from Indonesia. Luntuan Iska, Luntuan dari Aceh. It is Acehnese language, by the way, just to confirm that I am from Aceh. If you never heard it, this is Acehnese language, a very ethnical language in Indonesia. I am Iska from Iskandar, if you would know. Or you more familiar with Alexander, I think, in Western civilization, but we call Iskandar here. This is one of Aceh's name. I'm from PD. PD is a region in Aceh that just a couple of weeks ago, one of the U.S. aircraft carrier called USS Nimitz just passed by our sea territorials because it's close to Malacca Strait. But I also had a blood relationship with Southwest Aceh. It's called Aceh Barat Daya, where Kuala Bate or Kuala Batu is one of the part of this region. I think Professor Feener had already explained it clearly before. If you know about the Potomac invasion to Aceh and all the historical record. So it is so sad because we don't have the image features here because I already preserve evidence, I think, that I believe even Professor Feener didn't have it, but it's okay if we could show the image here. I just want to say that the removal of the man or the figure in the Salem city seal would be not just disrespectful for the harmony relationship that we already have with United States for a long time ago, even before Indonesia, Republic of Indonesia established. Even I believe it was already there before the United States of America established as a country. But it is not just a disrespectful, but it could be a distortion for the history of the Acehese and United States relationship before, because we already had a trade for a long time ago, and that's already been so tight. And if you remove the man or the figure in the seal, it could be means nothing for our past memory. So yeah, I hope you not remove it. You don't remove the man or the figure from the seal. And I also never visit the United States yet, for your information, even the Salem city also. So I hope one day if I could visit the United States and I visit the Salem city, I hope the seal will remain same, so I could be a little bit proud as an Achenese, because I carry not just the harmony, but also the historical proud from the past. That's all.
Th-
Thank you very much for your kind
Thank you,
attention.
Iska. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so next person is Juan. I think I'm saying that hopefully correctly. Just 1 second. Oh, actually, I may I think I'm not sure how that happened, but go ahead, whoever the 617 number is. Hello, can you hear us? 617 number. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next person. All right, so moving on to Puan. Go ahead.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I'm Puan from Aceh, currently working as architect in Heritage Project. I'm here to share my disagreement to change the city seal. So I was born as half Acehnese from my father's side and half Chinese Indonesian called Tionghoa ethnic from my mother's side. I grew up in Aceh, and when I was a kid, several people questioned my religion and my ability to speak the Acehnese language, simply because in their judgment, I look more like a Chinese than Acehnese. Therefore, I don't want to be ignorant about the issue of othering, which is the main reason behind the attempt to replace the seal. Instead, I want to share my perspective on how this seal and its sentiments underlying the design as a progressive movement against racism. It began in 1832, as cited in the Battle of Kuala Batu journal by Faris A. Noor. Kuala Batu was the largest conflict between Aceh and the U.S. during the paper trade period. The U.S. government faced criticism from its own citizens after news of the disproportionate attack went viral, sparking protests against the arbitrary treatment towards the Acehnese. 7 years after that, in 1839, the city seal was designed by George Peabody. While his true intention behind the design remained unclear, it's worth nothing that in an era when racism were normalized and colonization widespread, Salem chose a seal reflecting the influence of native traits from the Far East Indies, a connection that rooted in commerce and mutual exchange. Even in 2004, Salem people who are romanticizing this past relationship sent a tsunami aid to Aceh in act of solidarity. And right now, in Aceh and even Indonesia, where the sentiments toward Chinese Indonesian is still rooted in our society, which is kind of like same like in US, the depiction of Sumatran man on Salem city seal for us, wearing the earlier version of traditional clothes that clearly show the trace of adaptation from Chinese style, stand as a living proof of our past. The past where the two different cultures are not against each other but within each other since its first connection in 13th century. Therefore, as an Asianist, instead of getting offended, I'm very proud the city seal depicting my ancestor has been used by people across different periods to promote empathy, solidarity, and diversity against racism. And I believe this act should be continued by us by preserving the seal. That's what I want to share. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Juan. Moving on to the next person. Okay, and then I believe Baikuni, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thank you very much for the chance. Good morning from Aceh and good evening to everyone in Salem. My name is Baikuni Hasbi. I'm a global historian who recently just graduated from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, with a focus on modern Aceh and Southeast Asia. Part of my dissertation was actually talking about this, about how Salem and Aceh connected back in the past. So thank you for the opportunity again to speak about the importance, and I argue, is to preserve the current design of Salem City Seal. For me and for my professional, based on my professional perspective, so this seal is not just about an old image. It represents a shared story between Salem and Aceh, which rooted in a trade, diplomacy, and mutual respect. So it tells a story of a connection across oceans long before the world, like the world that we know today, globalization even existed. So it's actually represent a long connection between two different parts of the world. I understand that some have raised valid concern about the use of human imaginary on the seal and whether it could reinforce outdated or offensive stereotype. I fully understand that sensitivity. However, I think it's important to note that the seal does not necessarily depict a racial group in a demeaning or caricature manner. Instead, it captured a moment in history when Americans and Achinese interacted as trading partners. Also, it is important to note that racializations of Malay Muslim of the Achinese as backward or as any other negative depiction was not yet happened during the time. Um, Historical records shows that Achinese were active participants in this global commerce, negotiating on equal terms. So, esteemed historian like Tony Reed and Farish Noor also highlighted how these early exchanges were rooted in mutual benefit and not necessary subjugations. Salem maritime ties with Aceh are also well documented. There are a number of books that are already found. And in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, for example, Salem merchants were among the first American to establish direct trade with Sumatra, exchanging textile and silver for valuable commodities such as pepper, a highly sought after good at the time. So the seal accurately reflects Salem's role in a broader interconnected war long before globalization became a modern phenomenon. So this historical accuracy gives the seal its significance and relevance. The current seal also include voices beyond Salem's border. So acknowledging the presence of others is in our shared history. I believe this aligns with the values of inclusivity and international understanding that many in Salem hold dear. Of course, the relationship between Salem's and America and Aceh were not always peaceful. But despite the conflict in 1832, Aceh always regards America until it's defeated in 1873 as part of its friendly allies. Even Aceh's Sultan wants to visit and meet the president in 1874, although this never happened. So in conclusion, I believe that it is a symbol of America's early embrace of global connection, ethical reflection, and diplomatic openness. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, moving on to the next person. Okay, next up we have Flora. Go ahead, Flora.
Hi, this is Flor Tomtat. I'm Chinese from Hong Kong. I just want to say that I don't think the people who have spoken have experienced Asian hate like the Asians in America have. Stereotypical image is a social illness. It creates subtle behavioral problems by its messaging. Kids are bullied, they're mocked, because it reinforces a negative perception of a group of people, whether that be Italian, Jews, Irish. We now, through scientific research, better understand the psychological impacts of stereotypes. And that's why Massachusetts, Natick, Newton, and many other cities nationwide in America have or are in the process of changing their seal. Once, most would agree that in 2025, no ethnic minority figure in stereotypical form should appear as a mascot, in a logo, in a seal, or any institutional branding, as we now know, right? They're harmful, even when they're well-intentioned. So Massachusetts seal, flag, model, right? Currently undergoing changes. Natick changed their city seal. Newton recently approved a new seal design, okay? They're problematic. Salem ought to change it. I actually think that the Aceh people should really have no say on our seal because they live in a mono culture. This is about social ill, not history. They don't experience what we in America, where it's a it's a melting pot of various cultures. They don't experience what we experience. So great. We're not saying that, I mean, even in well-intentioned, it's a long relationship. I mean, if they think of it like a marriage, it can start out great. And then, how many marriages end in divorce? Okay, guess what? There was two punitive expeditions where they, slaughter hundreds of civilians and destroy all their forts. Um, you know, it just is not this is about the social illness and what we in America experience as Asian Americans. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Flora. Uh, Colby, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Colby Bomberowitz on Federal Street. First, let me say how genuinely heartened I am that so many people are showing up and care and have spoken up and they're staying engaged. I really feel like that's what community looks like, and it's incredibly powerful. And I also just want to give a shout out to the task force. It's really tough to sit and just listen without being able to respond for a solid hour. So my heart goes out to you too. Um, so far from what I've heard, there are two main perspectives. Some people are focused on being inclusive and reflecting a modern vision for our city, especially our members who are part of a diaspora, and others are deeply committed to preserving a shared history. And I just want to be incredibly clear that both values matter. And I believe that they don't have to be in conflict. They can inform and strengthen each other. I truly believe that we can create a seal that honors our past while embracing who we are today. For example, just brainstorming here, like keep the ocean, keep the ship, keep the rainbow, keep the dove. But maybe we rethink some aspects, such as the gentleman and the tropical tree. Maybe we can consider incorporating other things that speak to the broader history, such as the pepper plant or the nutmeg plant, or both, or the umbrella. Um, Perhaps even a nod to our folklore. Perhaps the Latin can be replaced with the Namakeg language. So again, just tossing ideas out there, but the point is we have options, uh, creativity, respectful, unifying options. Another thought maybe is even like in 2026, we'll be marking our 400-year history. What if we made this a tradition? Like every century, we take a thoughtful look at our seal, guided by the spirit of time and the voices of the people, and we could treat each seal like a chapter in our city's story, preserved and respected and remembered. This is really a chance to lead with imagination, with respect, and with hope. And I have no doubt that we will all find a path forward. So I'm in favor of changing the seal, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Colby. All right, so moving on to Karim. Okay, go ahead, Karim. Can you hear us, Karim? Hello?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, I am Asna Hussein. I'm using my husband's,
Oh,
my
thank you
husband's
for clarifying that.
Zoom. Hi, Michael. Yeah, yeah, I am Asna Hussein. I am a Chinese, but I am also in America. Actually, the issue, I am in favor of keeping the gentleman. That's first. Secondly, I visited Salem in 1991. And when I saw the seal and I was introduced to it at the library and in other places during my visit, I was so proud of my culture, excited about it. So yes, something old does not need always to be changed. I mean, as who the other lady said earlier, the Achenis have flora. The Achenis have no say. Surely we do not have a serious say in this issue, but because our proud man is depicted there, so it's become also part of our cultural heritage in a way. So another point, I mean, those of us who can visit the chapel at Princeton University would see the image of Razi at one of the windows. That image represents honor, not exploitation. Similarly, I think the image of the gentleman at on the seal is representing the honor and also respect for the culture. And I'm sure, despite the tension mentioned earlier, yet I think the Americans who visited Aceh and traded with Aceh at the time had something they looked to it, and for that reason, the image of the gentleman is depicted on the seal. If you look at the head, it's very much the kind of the Achenese head being worn by the groom of Aceh when they have the wedding. For those of you who can attend the Achenese wedding, you can see this attire is very much, of course, the Achenese attire is more elaborate, but still part of it. My last, because I have very limited time, my last point I would like to mention, this request for change sometimes as is being depicted here is for the sake of again racism, but could be it's actually based on racist idea because the turban represent Islam. For that reason, we want to remove any representation of Islam. Even when they created it, they didn't have any thought of Islam in their mind. So for that reason, I would like to propose that this seal being kept and maintained. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to Darni. Oh, I apologize. I think I skipped Darni and went straight to Justin. So Justin, go ahead.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, I want to say salamu alaikum to all our friends in Aceh. I'm very moved by all of these testimonies that I had no idea was coming, but I think speaks volumes. It speaks more than I ever could. So in spite of the negativity, which I unfortunately I'm going to have to bring after that, I'm going to. So I won't say much about the absurdity that we heard just a moment ago about how those affected should have no say, and how that is co-opting and erasing the experience of people actually affected. I'll just get to my comments. This task force is fundamentally flawed because, as you all know, you, the majority of members, were selected on the basis of your belief that the seal is racist and needs to be changed. This is a bit like a judge selecting jurors for a trial on the basis of the juror's belief in the defendant's guilt. It is a totally inappropriate and dishonest way to go about the process. An honest task force would have been made up at a minimum of equal halves of for and against the seal. Now, I've listened to every single moment of every meeting, and I've heard a profound ignorance of the relevant history here. What I've heard instead are assumptions, projections, ideological dogmas, and downright fabrications. The central point for me in all this is that the seal is a historical artifact and therefore worthy of preserving for its own sake and in its own right. Just as we don't tear down a historic house on a whim and replace it with something we might think is better or more to our liking or just fresh and new, we should not be changing the seal absent a powerful cause. And we don't have a powerful cause. What we have are assumptions, projections, and feelings divorced from facts. Now, I know that even if it's proven to you that the intent of the seal was not racist, and of course it was not, most of you will still object to it based on two convictions that you've expressed in these meetings: that a white person's depiction of anyone of another race is inherently racist, and that the figure of the man on the seal is a mascot, and mascots are racist. Both of these are simply wrong. The mascot part is easy. This isn't a mascot. A mascot runs around in a costume at sports events. A mascot is on a logo by itself. It's done in caricature with exaggerated form and features, like the witch on Salem High School football logos. That's a mascot. That's emphatically not what we have on our seal, and you know that. As far as persons of one race being depicted by a person of another race being racist, that's absurd, but it's also very sad. I'm sad to think of all the portraits that Miss Barnes, forgive me, never painted because she imbibed that notion. It's simply an overcorrection for bygone days when white cultural dominance meant that minority voices were only rarely able to speak to a mass audience for themselves and in their own voices. That was wrong, but it hasn't been the case for 2 generations, and creating some new perverse caste system for who can depict whom is not the answer. In sum, as the voices today from Aceh have demonstrated, you have misunderstood the purpose of the seal. You have misunderstood the attitudes of those who created it, and you misunderstood its purpose and meaning today. I urge you to leave the seal alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin. All right, moving on to Darni. Go ahead, Darni. Can you hear us? Please unmute if you can hear us.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I am Darni Daud from Banda Aceh. I was in the United States, especially in New York, for my graduate studies at New York University and also at Oregon State University. And I went to Boston, including Salem, several times. What I want to tell is that when talking about the city of Salem Seal, we cannot see it from contemporary or today's perspective. We have to see from the historical perspective. As one of the speakers said, that it is nothing or cannot be related to history. It is very important, especially to see the long relationship, especially paper trades between the Achenese and American, particularly those from Salem. Paul Adam, that's, I believe, the person, the picture adopted in the seal has a lot of meaning. That is the past and also the contemporary meaning. So therefore, I believe that we cannot see the seal or interpret the meaning from contemporary personal experience. We have to see this much more than that. It is deeply, very meaningful and should be understood beyond what can just be seen there related to race, etc. For the Achenese, it is something very meaningful and deeply meaningful. And I believe that therefore we have to keep it there. And why should we change? Of course, the person or the people in the past who designed the seal must base on particular reason, not just reason based on the superficial reason, but something very deep. And therefore, I believe that the seal should be kept there and should not be changed. That's my perspective as an Achenese who studied, I believe, a long time in the United States and now live in Banda Aceh. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Darni. Okay, so moving on to Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
Hi, can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Alrighty. I'll keep it brief. My name is Michael Corley, and I live here in Salem, Massachusetts. I'm speaking here today because I've heard just in my time over these conversations from dozens of people, including students at Salem State, members of the Asian Student Association, and members of our AAPI community who have shared how the current city seal makes them feel excluded or uncomfortable. If a symbol causes harm or raises serious concerns for members of our community, we should ask ourselves why hold on to it, especially when we have such a vibrant history. Surely, if we think about creating a new seal that reflects who we are today as a community, that values inclusivity, growth, and mutual respect, I think especially of relationships we have today with OTA Japan, a relationship that is built on friendship and that is mutually beneficial and doesn't come with that added baggage, would be great. I think that's a sort of story our city should be telling. And I think just one thing that's troubling to see online and in these conversations about our city seal is that while not everyone who wants to keep the city seal as is acting out of racism, it's clear that those in our community who are openly racist are overwhelmingly on the side of keeping the seal unchanged. And like I said, not everyone who's in favor of keeping the seal is acting out of racism, but many members of our community who are openly racist are on that side. And if those are the loudest voices defending this status quo, we need to ask ourselves, is that the company we need to keep and we want to keep, especially when members of our community are feeling hurt? I believe we can do better. We can come together and create something that reflects all of Salem, past, present, and future. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, moving on to Ana Nuncio. Ana, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. In listening to all of these comments, it's been very helpful. My name is Ana Nuncio. I'm a longtime Salem resident and also serve as president of the Latino Leadership Coalition. And I've served in that role before. And I was impressed from the beginning with the research that was done by the AAPI coalition. It seemed to me very thorough. I'd learned some things as I'm learning things now with the arguments that are presented, pro and con, changing this image. It was interesting that when we discussed it in coalition, we did not take a vote, but the general perspective was that there was reason for the group to bring these objections to the table for the AAPI coalition, the Asian American Pacific Islander coalition. And I think it's because we Latinos in this country see things with that same perspective of the here and now versus what happened in cultures long ago. And while there is something very glorious to celebrate always about the history of Salem and its trade with the Far East, there was the research that was presented about massacres that happened, one massacre. And I think when I hear the argument about today's perspective versus a historical perspective, I really believe that today's perspective has a lot to it does matter a great deal in this conversation. And it's not a flippant way of looking at the desire to change the seal. We have an opportunity. I particularly liked what Colby said earlier about trying to find and do something new and to use the 400th anniversary as that opportunity, because the lived experience of the group in the United States matters a great deal. We can cherish our heritage, but as a Mexican American, I can tell you that how many times I've been told that there's nothing offensive about the guy sleeping with a big sombrero against the cactus. And yet over time, I've seen that recede, the use of that image. I realize it's not the same as what we're talking about now, but it's the same argument. You're too sensitive. Lived experience of the group in the United States matters a great deal in this time. And so therefore, I would respectfully ask the Thank you.
Thank you, Ana. Okay. iPhone Pamela, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been listening to people talking, and I've been living here for about 29 years now. One of the reasons I moved here was the history of the city. And I don't know what is wrong with history and why people can't look back and see that the history of our city developed and we became wealthy and well known, and we built on that history. Every ethnic group that comes here is going to have a different wish or hope to have maybe something of their image on the seal. But if you keep it historical, going back in time for good reasons, for the people who don't want it changed, it's their country, they don't want it changed. They have a good image of the United States from it. It doesn't seem sensible to me. A city that has no witches, has witches all over the place on all the city vehicles, all the city badges, the schools. And I have not seen any big commission or group come up to want to change that. I just don't see why you're focusing on this one issue. My ancestors had a hard time when they came here, but I don't mind the image on the Celtics. Thank you.
Thank you. And would you mind just stating your name for the record? I don't know if I heard it.
I'm sorry, Pamela Jendrizik.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I think moving on to Flora, I see your hand again, so I'm gonna go to Ukra and then John, and if there's still time, we'll come to you again, Flora. Okay, so Ukra, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think the timer's still on the.
Yes, I'm restarting it. There we go.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity as well. So some raise concern about racism on this STEM, and understand where that is coming from as a linguist who studies symbols. So stereotypes are one of the things that we study. And apologize if at some point in the course of this discussion, I'm a Chinese, by the way, if I didn't say that out loud. I'm sorry if our proudness of our past may become the pain of others in this course of discussion. However, I think we need a more nuanced and future-oriented thinking on that, if I would say. As might have seen before, we see the image as a rare form of recognition from our part. And when decisions about cultural symbols are being made without talking to the people they depict, that's when things happen. But we have to remember that visual symbols from the past don't always line up with how we read them today. The umbrella, the clothing, the colors, they might look Chinese now, but these features were common across many Asian cultures back then, especially during colonial times. So styles overlap, historical images wasn't always accurate. I think this representation of how a Chinese might look like Chinese goes well with the currently developing progressive ideas of transnationalists and non-essentialist discourses, I would say. And so I think the racism discussion, the very concern of this hearing and this whole changing of STEM processes is also the product of the same progressive ideas, right? Along with the non-essentialists and the transnational discourses. So that people do not look like one image and that many races live in harmony back before nation state formed. And so I think changing it, in this case, erasing it, I mean, you might change to some other people representation or probably to some other non-people images. In this case, erasing it would erase the very history that we want to maintain now. That this history can act as a proof that back then people were not mono. People back then were multicultural. And so this part of history needs to be maintained to highlight that Achinese were back then part of the Chinese and also all those multicultural living together. And so I think this is important to keep the future non-essentialist and transnational movement discourses
to keep going. I think that's from me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, so moving on to John and restarting the timer.
Actually, this is Carol Carr. I know it comes up as John, but it's his wife, Carol Carr, 7 River Street, Salem.
Thank you.
I've lived here for over 50 years. I am very much opposed to changing the city seal. I am feel very strongly that it should be the same, remain the same. Pam Jendrozik spoke earlier about building on the history. We have a great history. This reflects part of that history. No matter what kind of a city seal you're going to come up with, somebody is going to take offense. So really, is it so bad? Are you so offended that you need to change the city seal? And as Pam said, what about the witch? The witch on the broom is more offensive to more people than the city seal. It's in your face every place. There were no witches, and we have a woman on a broom. And yet, you know why the city is not looking to change that? Because it makes money for the city. People like the witches in Salem. So maybe that would be a better focus to get that witch off the broom and not be a part of the patches on the firemen, on the policemen, on the police car, every place you look. We should be focusing on other issues that are so serious in today's world. I think you should leave well enough alone. I know you're trying hard to understand this whole seal and the history of it, but it's other people have spoken up that have a very knowledgeable basis for supporting the seal as it is and keeping it the way it is. And I think it should be left alone, and we should be moving on to more serious issues. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's see here. Flora, you already spoke, so I have to go to the people who haven't spoken. But if there's time at the end, we'll let you speak again. Okay. All right, so Alan, go ahead, and I'm gonna reset the timer.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I actually wasn't going to say anything, but I heard from I hope I say it, Acha. Did I say it right? All the people from Acha who have spoken. This is pretty important, and I think we need to they've given some very intelligent testimony or opinions about the seal and also the history. And I think we all need to take that into account. So that's all I'll say.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. Noted. Okay, and I think we are at the end. So if it's okay with everyone, I'll let Flora speak again. And oh, we just had somebody raise their hand. Hold on. Right. Oh, and they're lowered it. So okay. Oh, okay. I'm gonna let them talk. Uh, Rayhan, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Raihan. I'm currently opening a small library on the beach in Aceh Besar, one of the district in Aceh, in the west coast of Aceh. I wrote about this logo last year and on our Instagram account, and there are more than 20,000 followers, and we got a very, very positive engagement and positive feedback about this history. And many Acehnese think that this logo should not be changed because for Acehnese people, this is a history that must be recorded. And the image of the man of the center of the logo does not show racism, but actually depict the figure of the Acehnese people from the past, and the Acehnese people are very proud of it because it shows the history of diplomacy and very good trade relation between Aceh and Salem in the past. And by the way, the treasure worn by the man in the logo are Acehnese people called tam Aceh in Acehnese and are the style of clothing worn by some Acehnese people at the time. So that's my opinion, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Raihan. All right. So we're getting some people who have already spoken. So again, I'll skip to the people who haven't spoken, and if we have time at the end, we'll let people speak again. Hafiz, go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Hafiz. Thanks for your opportunity. I'm currently a student at the National University of Singapore at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy. I think all of the opinions that have been passed into this meeting are very incredible, are very impressive also, with rich and long history of relationship between Aceh and Salem City. I think, in my opinion, the seal should be preserved because this represents the value of both societies, Acehnese and also for Salem City. If it will be erased, it will diminish also the values of those things. You know, the values of friendship, the values of trade, the values of diplomacy. As what we know in international relations, soft diplomacy and soft power is quite matter. And who knows, maybe in the future, we don't know, the friendship or the history will come again. And yeah, it forged the more serious friendship in the future. I think that's my short opinion about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hafiz. Okay, moving on to Siu Yen. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, good evening, and I'm from Aceh, but I live in Australia, in Perth. I have been living in Australia for the past 40 years. Looking at the seal of the Salem city, it reminds me of other landmarks in the world. We influence each other a great deal. There is no place on earth which is not touched by other people or other culture. So in my opinion, we should keep the logo as it is because we can repeat the history. And the seal highlights and represent the American legacy, the past legacy. How wonderful to remember the relationship between America and Sumatra at that time. And I think the seal also represent the harmonious relationship between different nations. And I want to comment another thing with the word Salem. I don't know where this come from, but I remember in Arabic, the word Salem or Salim means peace, a kind of like peaceful city, peaceful place. And as I mentioned, that there is no culture is not influenced by other culture. For example, like there are hundreds or even thousands of words that from Arabic become an English and other European Arabic. For example, like the word magazine, the word the word buy, buy, to buy, and so many other words like who come from Arabic. And I think the seal is very beautiful seal. I think we should not keep, we should not change anything about that seal. That is my opinion, and I hope like everyone who like diversity and like to preserve harmonious like relationship between people should keep the seal as a part of the great American history. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, sorry to mention, my name actually not Siyun. This is my name Zahrati from Perth, Australia. But I use this word as my nickname for the Zoom. Siyun mean like orchid from Aceh language, like the flower of Siyun, the flower of orchid. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and okay, I think we have Jesse, and then if we have time, Flora, and then Justin.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jesse Hession-Grayman. I'm not from Salem, but I have long family roots all across the state of Massachusetts. And I'm speaking to you from Auckland, New Zealand, where I teach anthropology at the University of Auckland. And I have been working and doing research and studying in Aceh for the past 20 years, since shortly after the tsunami. I met Professor Fiener roughly 20 years ago. And I just wanted to affirm many of the voices that we've heard from Aceh over the course of this session. Many of the voices you've heard spoke with humility. Many of the people who introduced themselves are actually leading figures in at Aceh-based universities. They are historians, anthropologists, major thought leaders across the province. And I'm really impressed by sort of the showing at this meeting from all these voices, and it came on very short notice. I myself woke up to information about this session just a few hours ago. It's morning here in New Zealand, and so I didn't have time to prepare my own remarks. But what I would like to say, we've heard it from a lot of historians, and I'll let the historians speak to the historical record. If there's one thing I could add, speaking as an anthropologist, is we've heard a lot of statements of pride from the folks in Aceh who are really proud of this historical relationship and connection and the imagery on the Salem City Seal. And I think this pride is extraordinary that all these people have shown up on very short notice with very thoughtful, prepared remarks. This, to me, is sort of an outsized level of pride. And I think there are some good reasons for this. We've mentioned the history of the tsunami in Aceh, but what has not been mentioned yet in this meeting is the long history of political violence that Aceh has lived with for more than a century. First with the Dutch War for 30 years, and then later with the post-colonial Indonesian government over several decades. And it's that lack of recognition from authoritative figures who were ruling over Aceh that sort of led people in Aceh, as I understand it, to search for other sources of recognition from around the world. They take great pride in their historical connections with Turkey, for instance, and they also take great pride with this historical connection with Salem. It's that source of recognition from other sources beyond the ruling political authorities that have not always shown respect for Aceh, that I think results in this show of force and pride in sessions like this. So thank you so much to the panel for convening this. I really have appreciated hearing all the voices, and thank you all so much for having this discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. Okay, so I think that's everyone. So Flora, if you want to speak again,
I
Rachel,
just
did you
wanted
have
to say
something?
something. I
Yeah.
noticed that people wanted to speak again, but because we have different listening sessions, so this is just a listening session. Thank you so much for showing up, everyone, and for everyone who spoke. But we have also times where people can meet and talk at length. So, like, for example, Suzanne and I are going to be at the farmers market, and we can set up some digital sessions where, if there are a lot of people from abroad, where we can kind of have longer moments. And I think that that might be better than having people speak again and then kind of starting a conversation. This is just, I believe, a listening session, if I'm correct.
Yes, I mean, absolutely.
I would agree, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So in that case, we won't be allowing people to talk more than once. So please send your comments over email if anything was missing. I'll make sure that it gets forwarded to the entire task force. And yeah, I mean, we're always receiving feedback over email, so feel free to write to us. Thank you, everyone. I think we're at time. So our next regular meeting is next Monday. I personally won't be there, but Rachel will be leading that meeting. So thanks, everyone. And I think that concludes our listening session for today. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Bye.
Thanks all.